Good evening, viewers. It's such a joy to have you back in this Midweek Connect. And from last week, we began on the journey, reflecting from the scripture, from the book of Daniel. And we are analyzing, actually, Daniel himself and how he was able to be an outstanding leader in his context. And so it is such a joy to have you back again. And my name is Carol, and I'm joined by two great people whom I admire most, and they are such an influence in their own spheres. And I would have them introduce themselves. So we start with from that end.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. My name is Javia, helping Carol to co-host this show today.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my name is Anne, and I'm part of the team, so we are going to have, I trust, a good conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. And she's not only Anne, she's actually Dr. Anne. So don't get confused.
Yeah.
I would like to know, what is this godly wisdom? Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
So first, let me say that applying godly wisdom requires unconventional perspectives and strategy. It's just not the normal way we do things. Definitely godly, from the word God, is the wisdom that is not just normal, common wisdom. It has a divine angle. In other words, God will give you a perspective. You could be discussing about something, and quickly you just see a perspective that is not common. It's not even written in a book.
Yeah.
It is not because you discuss something, but the Lord brings something your way, and quickly you say, I think we have had conversations many times when we are running the school. And there are times when we are discussing something, and I just say, I think this is the direction we need to go on this issue. So there is that divine enablement that comes, and wisdom that has a perspective that you know is not human. It's not because you read a lot. It's not because you studied a lot. It's not because people have said you are very wise. But a thought, many times to me, it comes in form of a thought or a caution. Or an anchor that I never thought about. Somebody, a child could even be talking, and the Lord brings it. So I would say it is something that's divinely given, okay? But how do we, what are some of these perspectives that we, because I said for you to exemplify, to apply this knowledge and understanding and wisdom in a workplace, you really need unconventional ways of doing it. One of the things I find is just simply upholding integrity and ethics. You know, one of the things we are shot down badly as believers is when we compromise. But if we understand the requirements of a setting, uphold integrity as much as possible in all aspects, find out what is required of you. Am I supposed to come to work at this particular time? We don't see Daniel playing around with things. You know, the context in Babylon is corrupt, clearly. But the Bible says this man had a wise, he had a perfect or clean spirit, for lack of a better word, and he was diligent. See, so he simply is ethical. He's ethical, one, is as a man of integrity. He doesn't pick anything there. That in itself is a way of, you know, passing godly wisdom. It's like telling people, look, I don't fail to steal because I don't have the opportunity. I choose not to. He may not have said that, but that's what he lived out. He had the opportunity because he was on top. He was a he was among the administrators, the senior guys. So I imagine in a corrupt culture, he had all means, so integrity and ethics. The other one is excellence in work. That's way of exemplifying the wisdom, the divine wisdom, to say, I understand what my employer requires. I will exemplify it to an extent that nothing is questionable. Wow. The other one I would say is, of course I mentioned that, is living a corrupt lifestyle, or being a person who is a steward. Exemplify high standards in stewardship. Because people are watching at us to see, you know, God is a God of, he's a faithful God. He's a God who advocates, you know, integrity and honesty. So if we can exemplify high levels of stewardship in all aspects, resources, time, whatever it is, including human resource, how we handle people, then that in itself is, people will begin to question. Because the minute we begin to exemplify this level of living, this unique way of living, we provoke. And people want to know, what is this that makes you not be like us? There is it. And then you attract good conversation. The other one is innovativeness and creativity. And that's why I said, for us to exemplify godly wisdom, we need unconventional ways. Are you innovative? For example, how can you communicate? How can you do things in a way that your employer sees you are prudent, you are creative, if they are customers, you are attracting them, you are multiplying resources in a way that is not costly to the employer, but it is productive, it's adding value. People are saying, how did you get to know this? It's that wisdom and innovativeness. You are sharp, you know, and people, you create, because the essence here is I told you, the most important thing in this book is Daniel is trying to exemplify, is selling God, for lack of better word, selling out God. He's showing off God. He wants to convince people that you live with this God of mine, you are better off than anything else. And he is the best. He can protect me in fire, he can give me wisdom. So I would say in that case, innovation. Compassion and empathy. Remember, we need to exemplify our lifestyle in a way that leaves people with positive questions. What makes you so compassionate? Why are you concerned with people's welfare? Then you can tell them about your faith or about the wisdom. You tell them, God gives me the grace. And then the other one is discernment. If we are discerning, I would say we also exemplify wisdom in that way, innovativeness, you know, discerning, compassion, empathy. And then I would say the biggest for me is just be a servant leader. Servant leaders don't show off. They actually want to give others way. And so in this case, we constantly give credit to God and say, I know I'm good at work, but there's something beyond this. God has given me the wisdom to be able to do this, which you can see. And then by giving glory to God, then now you open doors for the conversation.
Yeah.
Dr. Anna, there's something I want to hang on. The second last thing, compassion and empathy.
Yes.
How do you become compassionate and empathetic, but not give room for people to take advantage of you? Because sometimes in leadership, you have many styles of leadership, but if you were to contrast a compassionate leader, an empathetic leader, vis-a-vis a tough leader. So sometimes a tough leader, they do get the results, you know, because you know they are more concerned about the results than the people. A compassionate leader also gets results, but sometimes you will have people in the team who will take advantage of your compassion. So, for instance, if you need a certain report sent by a certain time, you know, for a tough leader, you know, sometimes if those results are not in there, they don't care, you know, whether you are sick or whether you had a child who was giving you problems. They just want those results. For a compassionate leader, if you submit a result late, sometimes they'd want to find out, okay, I was waiting for this report, what happened? And if you explain that maybe you were sick or you had a child you had to attend to, they'd be kind to you. So how do we help a compassionate leader not to be taken advantage of? Because you'll also have people who now will see that as an opportunity to get away with things.
So leadership is a very interesting discipline. One, for you to be able to, because remember the other day I said you can be born an innate leader with certain qualities, but all of us have certain qualities, but you don't have others. So irrespective of whatever happens, we must grow. So for this leader you are talking about, one, they need to know clearly themselves. A self-awareness in leadership is extremely important. You need to know, am I a strong leader? I don't like to say tough because everybody can be tough depending on if they are pushed to the wall. Am I a strong leader or am I a very soft, compassionate? Because you can be strong and compassionate, but you can be compassionate and lazy. So you need to know, be very clear and aware what type of leader am I, period. That's the first one. Number two, where am I lacking? So if you are very strong on compassion and empathy, but not good in enforcement, there are several ways then you can grow in that area. Either you can use you as number two to strengthen that area, and you become the nice one all the time, and then
become the good cop.
That's dangerous, because leaders set a culture. So you need to grow and be able to enforce, use policy. If you are weak, use policies that are in the organization, and enforce rewards and punishments. Christians and diplomats struggle with that. There is nothing wrong with that. Enforce. People, all sorts of people know when you're authentic. People are not even worried about whether you enforce punishment or not. They actually look for authenticity. I work in a school, like you guys know. And Carol will tell you, I am very popular here, but I am very tough. If I just walk out of this compound where we are seated, I won't walk 2 minutes without seeing children running to me. I don't know why they come to me, and yet I'm very firm. But one thing I know is I'm authentic, and people are able to see authenticity. So if people know you love them, because authenticity means when they do well, you genuinely show care. You genuinely reward. And they know when they don't do well, you don't strip them, open in public. You call them to accountability. Because that's what leadership is about. Our God is a God of accountability. And when he holds you, he will ask of you. In that place you are sitting, he will ask of you to give an account how you nurture that person, because part of leadership is nurturing people. So I would say, first, be aware what kind of leader you are. Number two, be aware of your weak areas. And then figure out strategies of gapping. In either you can use policy, you can use other people who are stronger. Sometimes I'm not very diplomatic. My deputies are two of my deputies. One of my deputies is very diplomatic. So I know when to use the diplomacy. I step out and the diplomacy comes in and it gaps in and people don't feel the pain or something. Or sometimes I have learned how to be diplomatic. There are different ways. I may not be the same degree to the same degree as the other person. So I think I would say that leaders need to know themselves, need to know their strengths and weaknesses, need to figure out how to address those weaknesses, either using other people or reading or developing. My most recommended one is not to use other people. It is to grow into it. Because as a leader, you need to be strong and only bring in another person when completely you are not able to gather. But you need to be intentional in growing in those areas of weaknesses, because there is nothing wrong with holding our deputies and our subjects accountable.
When you talked about authentic, I remembered being in a team where when in the team, if you saw a message from, let's say, one of the leaders, you could tell that is not that leader's handwriting.
Correct. Even the language. Even the language.
You could tell they are speaking. They are speaking on behalf of someone else, but because that top leader is not bold enough to say it themselves,
there you go.
they decided to use someone. So you're right when you say people can pick out authenticity.
Yes, they can.
This one is not your handwriting.
And it is the best when people know. I don't want to say what's happening in our country, but when people know you're authentic, you can get away with anything. Because they can hold you to your word. They can take, that's what we say, they can take your word to the bank. So we need to safeguard, and the authenticity has something to do with the integrity. We need to safeguard our authenticity so that people know when I call you into accountability, I'm not calling you because I'm squaring, some scores with you. I'm calling you because you didn't submit your report yesterday. We talked about it the other day, and it's going. And I'll give an example. One time I had, this I can give an example, and I've done this many times. So this time, this staff was giving us a headache. Tunamupigania bado anatusumbua. Nikamwita siku moja. Nikamwambia, listen, the next time you come to my office, I'll fire you. And I said, this is not threat. I'll terminate your contract and pay you 1 month notice. Things changed. Because we had talked about their troublesome behavior for a year. Yeye tu ndiye anakuwa na shida. And I had become the one who was fighting for them. Ninaona kama anasumbuliwa na wale staff wengine. Ninamtoa hapa, ninampeleka pengine. So now I took them to a place where I knew that staff was too good. Then there was you trouble. I said, come, sit here. We revisited. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you must be the one with the problem. I'm giving you... Now I turned the ball to them and I said, work-wise, they are good. Character, they are bad. They are bad relationships. So I turned it against them and things have changed. I don't see them. I've not seen them in my office. There is no complaint and we are doing it. So we leaders who are in a position of leading teams, we need to stop protecting our good name. The problem is when you have a leader who wants praise. The minute you succumb, you slip. You live in a world of, you know, sapping praise and wanting to be the good one. Please go home. You can't lead an institution and you can't lead a group because you will compromise several other people. And the danger of that kind of living where you cannot be bold enough to challenge things that are not right, the good people will leave you one day. They'll get to a level where they say, this person is not, they will need protection because that group that is indisciplined and does not want to do anything will begin to make life difficult for the one that is disciplined. So what will happen? You'll be left with an indisciplined group.
And for some reason, those ones, they usually don't leave.
They never leave.
They don't go.
No,
they don't resign.
They don't go. They stay.
Like a
and
tick
they wait
on
for
a cow.
and they wait for another group. So you will if you start seeing very high staff turnover in an organization, watch out. First find out who is going. If the non-performers are going, it means things are hot inside. If the performers are going, it means there is a leader who has just let things run their course. And organizations don't learn like that. You will be compromised in the system. So a leader must find balance and say, when it is good, let's go to Mombasa and eat chapati and swim in the river. That is empathy, that's compassion, we are feeling good. But when reports need to be in on Monday, they should be in on Monday. And then I listen, because you will know an excusing support staff. And you will know a staff who genuinely meant, you know this person works. If they were late today, they are late today, genuinely. So leaders need not to stop passing the batons to their seniors. And most of those kind of laid-back, non-decisive leaders, they know how to pass a dirty job to their juniors. They don't take decisions, and it's very offensive to lead with people like that. It's very offensive.
Yeah, I have a ready question there. This one seems like it's this leadership skill, being authentic, is only for those who have matured up in it and are already on top. But what advice would you give to a young leader, maybe in their late 20s or in their early 20s, and they have gotten into leadership, to learn how to be authentic throughout, so that by the time they're getting to the top of leadership, they have maintained that and they have grown in that, they have strengthened their integrity, that they can't be compromised. And they are known for what they are.
First, authenticity is a character issue. It is not even an age. I have small people in school, children who are authentic. I have a small boy in one of the classes. I said, are you going to do this? He says, no, I'm not going to do it. He says he's authentic, he's honest. But authenticity can also be developed. So if it is not in you that you are, because authenticity is that ability of being the same. It's such like integrity. We turn you this way, we find you the same. You tell us this, we just find there is nothing hidden behind those statements. So I would say that first, it is a lot wrapped in our character. But should it not be there, it can be developed. Because again, I go back, please, every leader should be developed and can be developed. It is dangerous to rely on your innate qualities, because some of those innate qualities are very raw. I gave an example the other time. I said you can be courageous, but courageously long. You need diplomacy in presenting your courage, for example. Or you can be very diplomatic, but diplomatically so. If there's a way you can do it until you end up being a liar. So you turn out not to be a liar. So all of us, irrespective of the package of qualities that we were born with, we need to be developed. The more we submit ourselves to development, the better. And there are many ways of developing yourself, not just authenticity. You can read first, back to that. Need to know yourself. What kind of a leader are you? Where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? And then get into a journey of multiplying first your strengths. Don't spend a lot of time into weakness, because there's a way you can multiply your strength and cover your weaknesses, because you are riding a lot. Don't spend a lot of time trying to correct your weaknesses. That's not how people lead. You spend a lot of time multiplying your strength, because there is always somebody in your team who is stronger in your area of weakness. So then one of the ways is to bring them up, so that what is weak in you is quickly covered by somebody who is stronger, okay? But that's not an excuse, because they will not always be there. Then now invest on this weakness. So constantly grow, concurrently grow in your strength, multiply them, and also grow in your, minimize your weaknesses or improve on them, whatever the way. So you can read, you can be mentored by somebody, you can read, you can watch videos, whatever. We have so much information. If you want, for example, to be unforgiving, you just type in the internet, either video or whatever, Instagram, something will come up that will educate you. So we are in an era where you cannot give an excuse, and you can have a mentor. It is dangerous when you are a leader, you don't have a mentor. It is very dangerous. But then you can also have a coach. A coach is someone now who builds your capacity. But a mentor is important, because a mentor opens their dirty part and says, this is how dirty I am, and come along with me. They don't just show you their strength. If you have a mentor who cannot be vulnerable, please walk out of that mentor. They need to tell you, I failed in this area. And then this is how I walked out, so that you feel safe. Because you are coming to them because you feel, I'm struggling in this area. I don't want to be condemned. I want my hand to be held up. And somebody needs to walk with me. So if they can't be vulnerable to share their weaknesses, then you are in the wrong hands.
In fact, Dr. Anne, in fact, interestingly, your last question, vulnerability. How vulnerable should a leader be? You know, is there? Because sometimes, and I like the way you've put it, you know, like for a mentor, you go to them because you have your own struggles and you're looking for someone to help you, but even more, you are hoping that they have been through that journey.
Yes. Wisely so. Be vulnerable wisely. And let me explain why I'm saying wisely. Release some level of information and see how it will be handled.
Okay.
Because there is a level of information you can release to a mentee and they are devastated. So if I tell, for example, Carol, I used to be a thief. Momentarily, she's shocked. Well, I was not, Carol. But assuming you are struggling with disappearing with pens from your class. So release information and see how much, wisely, how much can your mentee, don't hide, but manage. It's like children. Let me give a slightly. One time when my son was young, he said, Mom, where did we come from? I said, you were in my stomach. How did we come out? Now, that's a very difficult question. Thank God I went through surgery. So I said, they cut through it. But now I don't have to tell my son. And they ask here in school. So you don't lie. My sister, one of my sisters was trained in managing children. And she said they were told, tell them just enough for their age. Just release information. And they ask me sometimes, where were you? If I get from school. This is where I was. Why did you not tell us? You see, you don't answer that other question. You wait for the one that's coming. So for mentee, listen to their story and bring the stories that are appropriate. And first release and see how did they handle that information. If I start telling people all the problems I had with my husband, then I hear them the next day in the church, then now I need to protect his integrity because he has a position in the church. So I think I would say release appropriately and in good dose, and then build the person. If they get out of the situation, sometimes you might be talking about your story, but you present it like it is a friend of yours, so that they feel safer. You say, a friend of mine, you know, they went through this, so they say, and I walked with them. You walked with yourself. So figure out some wisdom, but as much as possible, be authentic, without implicating other people. If it's your story, just my best approach would be release it in bits without framing your story like. There are people who prefer that, to frame their story like it was somebody else. Personally, I prefer to say my story authentically as it is, but then decide how much you tell who and what age. And if you are safe, that you also tell yourself, you ask yourself, am I safe if this information goes out? If you don't feel comfortable, don't release it. But if you feel, even if it goes out, I think I'm in a position where I can, like I've told people one time I ate tithe, you know, so yeah, I did. And then I tell them I stopped eating. I ate a few months, my salary was little, I was not coping. You see, that is risky, but I'm not giving you license to. I say.